Welcome to the Online Success Journey podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey podcast, Patience.
Hello everyone and welcome to Online Success Journey. This is episode 173. Are you ready to join the clan? Today we have Kasim Aslam, the founder and the CEO of Solution 8, a digital marketer certified partner, Infusion software certified partner, official Google partner, and the author of the #1 Amazon bestseller, The 7 Critical Principles of Effective Digital Marketing. Through Solution 8, Kasim has spent more than a decade helping over 500 organizations grow and scale using a unique and proven process. Hello, Kasim.
Hi, Patience. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. I know the clan here is anxious to hear your story, so let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my clan a bit about your background, about what you did before you started your own online business?
Sure. I actually started off selling software to banks, which might be the most boring industry in the world to be in. But it was an interesting start because it put me in a corporate environment that's a lot different than where I am now. And I was actually at the largest privately held bank in the nation when it failed. I was there on Bank Failure Friday when the FDIC came in and took the bank over, and that was the end of my software business because that bank happened to be my biggest client. So I had to pivot and do other things.
But then from there you moved on. Now you are official to partners for Google. How did you become these partners of Google's and Fusion software?
The Google partnership is easy. Anybody can do it. You go online and take some training and certification. I will say that our team is a Google Premier partner, so we've done pretty well in this space. We're top 2% partners now. So there's, I think, 5,500 Google partners on the planet, and we rank pretty high, which is something I'm really proud of. The Infusionsoft partnership came through our relationship with their development team. They're actually located out in Phoenix where I am, and we joined their partner program a few years ago. Again, anybody can do it, not hard to do. You walk through some training and certification, and then you can be a value-added reseller, which is what we are.
What is the most dangerous belief an online entrepreneur can have?
I think that a fear of failure is debilitating. I think that digital marketing is failing forward, and it's getting good at understanding that failure is just a path to success. And every time you fail, it's going to yield information that you can use in order to improve on what it is that you're doing. So if you're afraid of failure, I think that's a pretty catastrophic belief. I think you need to get excited about your failures because they're the guiding light that leads you to your successes.
Okay, you said you started a long time ago selling the software, but recently you became also the best-selling author. How did you do that? Did you always wanted to be an author?
No, not at all. The book it happened organically. I started writing a blog actually it was for an assignment I was giving from a client, and they just wanted to know the basics of what they needed to do from start to finish. And the blog was very well received, but I didn't feel like it was finished. I didn't feel like it was complete. And so just on my own time and for my own purposes, I kind of started to expand on what I thought the core principles and tenets of marketing were. And it grew naturally into the book. And so I had no intention of writing a book. I didn't set out to write a book. But it was, kind of a nice byproduct of just, I would call it an academic practice, just me trying to, wrap my arms around what it is I do every day for a living. And published the book. It was really well received. I think I'm number 3 or 4 right now. If you search for digital marketing in Amazon, it ranks pretty well. So I've been happy with it.
We know you have been selling softwares to big companies, but why do you do what you do?
Well, I haven't been in software for almost a decade. I'd say more than a decade. It's all marketing now. And as far as the why, it's something I'm really good at. It's fun to feel like you have a superpower. And, when you're good at something, you sort of want to show other people and help other people be good at it too. So there's something really fulfilling about helping people grow their business. specifically for small business owners, I think the biggest impact you can have on their lives is to help them with predictable revenue. And that's really what marketing should do. It should kind of build a mechanism that allows you to sort of flip the switch when is necessary and, create a pipeline of prospects. And that's what we like to do for people. And I don't know. That's what gets me up in the morning is helping business owners. My dad's a small business owner. I come from a long line of small business owners. I think it's the lifeblood of the global economy.
Let's put man aside. How do you know you are successful?
I don't know that I am successful. I used to be very money driven, and then I made money, and it mattered less to me. I do like to measure the impact that I've had on other people, and because of the business I'm in, I have tangible measurements of that. I can tell you, almost to the dollar, the increase that we've been able to provide in certain people's businesses. Yeah, it's a hard question to answer because I'm not very good at patting myself on the back, let's say. And so it's difficult to contextualize yourself as a success. I don't know that I'm prepared to go there just yet.
Can anyone be an entrepreneur, or are some people more cut out for it than others?
I think anybody can be an entrepreneur. I don't think everybody wants to be. They might think they do, but my experience has been that the people that romanticize entrepreneurship tend to focus on the elements of it that aren't either aren't realistic or aren't really your normal day to day. I mean, like rubbing elbows with people and networking and speaking and those things. That's 1% of it. But if you don't like taking out the trash, and you don't like firing people, and you don't like having hard conversations, and you don't like 80-hour work weeks, then it might not be perfect situation for you. And I also think that's okay. We've done this really weird thing where we've turned entrepreneurs into heroes, and I don't think that that's always appropriate or necessary. I think that you can be your version of a hero wherever it is you happen to be sitting in whatever organization you're at. So entrepreneurship is one avenue of creation and all of those good things and the development of personal freedom, but it's not the only avenue. And I think that we need to stop with sort of the romantic narrative.
What have you learned from business as a whole?
Gosh, I think that people need to get good at the game of money. As a young man, I spent excessive amounts of money on really absurd and stupid things. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that the vast majority of success that I've seen and the success I see in other people stems from the fact that they're really good at managing money and managing finances. I think that no matter what business you're in, what industry you choose, what you do for a living, you can be a broke spinal surgeon and you can be a wealthy mailman. And I use both of those examples because I've been privy to both of those examples. Especially if you're going to be an entrepreneur, I think you need to get really good at the game of money, and you need to look at it like it's a game. And people tend to attach stigma to that, and you'll hear people saying things. It's always really fun to say, "Oh yeah, that guy's super cheap," or they're very frugal or fiscally responsible or whatever you want to say. But I actually think that that's necessary. And if I were to point at one lesson, it would be that.
In your businesses, have you ever had a mentor or a coach yourself?
Oh yeah, I don't think you can be in business and not have a coach. I also think that everybody has a coach, regardless of whether or not they know it. Clients can be coaches, employees can be coaches. I have one business mentor in particular. His name is Greg Smith. He's my best friend, an amazing business mentor. He's a really phenomenal entrepreneur. He's done some amazing things in his life, and he's been instrumental in what I've been able to do and accomplish, and helping me through things, introducing me to people, talking me out of some pretty stupid ideas. So yeah, if you don't have a mentor, it's time to get one. And I can tell you that it's easy to do. Successful people want to help you be successful. It's innately human to want to help other people climb the mountain you just climbed. And so I think you'd be pretty surprised if you're listening to this and you don't have a mentor, how easy it is to go out and find one. Just open yourself up to that and be ready to learn and to take what it is they have to share with you, because you might not like what they have to hear.
What is the most valuable thing your mentors has told you?
When you're hunting elephants, you have to shoot rabbits along the way, which is a weird and cryptic analogy. But again, going to myself as a young man, I always wanted to, I want to make $100 million and I want to do it tomorrow. So I kept searching for businesses with massive growth potential and significant scale. and I was constantly looking for the jackpot, for the big, 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 big win. And, this wasn't an aha moment because it took years for the message to really sink in. But basically what he was saying is, look, you can go for the big wins, but you have to be willing to, you have to eat. So you have to be willing to sort of, shoot for the smaller wins as well. And that was an important lesson for me to learn. And honestly, what's really funny about it is all of my big wins have been direct byproducts of being willing to focus on some of the smaller things in life. So that's, it's humbling to figure that out, that you've been looking in the wrong place the entire time.
What is one thing that has contributed to your success?
I think good relationships would be the thing that I focus on the most. I've got great relationships with my family, with my friends, with my staff, with strategic partners. I spend time investing in people. I really like Ray Dalio's paradigm of radical transparency. Before I ever read that book, I sort of had a vision of something similar for myself, but I never articulated it as well as he did. I think that you just need to really be honest with people, even when honesty hurts. And I think that honesty is going to serve you. Jordan Peterson talks about that too, actually. He talks about the fastest way to self-respect is just to speak your truth, and that you actually have a responsibility to speak your truth. And regardless of how confident you are about it, you actually need to pipe up, because the world is going to correct you. And that's the best way for you to learn and to grow. So I think between, relationships and the truth and transparency, I think those two things have really helped push me along.
What is one thing no one knows about you?
I don't know. My wife knows everything about me.
We can leave your wife as a part of you. So what about outside the doors?
Something I'm not fond of telling people is I'm a film nut, and I love movies, and at some point I want to make movies because I think it'll be a blast. But I really get a kick out of indie films, and the worse the film, the better. There's something about watching really crappy movies that I just kind of, I don't know. I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess, but I sort of like, like those really weird indie, sort of nobody ever watched this direct to DVD Redbox type flicks. I think that those are tons of fun.
What is the single biggest PPC mistake that nearly every agency makes?
Conversion tracking. Going back to our experience with AdWords, my Google AdWords team is, we're assassins, I like to say, when it comes to Google AdWords. There aren't many people that are better than us. And part of what we do for organizations when we're trying to earn their business is we audit their campaigns. And what I have found is, and this is shocking to me because it's among agencies as much as it is, do-it-yourselfers, but people don't have conversion tracking properly set up. And the entire paid advertising mechanism is built around helping you amplify and replicate your successful conversions. So if you're not tracking your conversions properly, that means that you're not taking advantage of this billion-dollar mechanism that has been built specifically by organizations like Google and Facebook to help you be more successful. So not tracking conversions properly, I think, is the single biggest mistake, and it's debilitating. It's it's the type of thing that will force failure upon you quickly.
How do you know that your PPC manager is absolutely worthless? Because everyone's come across saying that we are expert on this, we are doing this, we have all these testimonies, but how comes then we have those ones who filter down being worthless?
Yeah, it's a good question. What I recommend people to do is look at the changes that have been made in your account and then ask them why they're making those changes. So in almost every single advertising mechanism that I know of, there's a change management log. Google has one that's very comprehensive. Facebook has one. So first of all, you want to see that changes are being made. And if they're not, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You actually might want to ask, hey, why aren't changes being made? And they might have a really good example. There are quite a few times where our job is to hurry up and wait. But you want to make sure the answer makes sense. But what I do is look at your change management log and then go line by line and say, hey, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? And if their answer constantly is, oh, let me get back to the team, or I'm not sure, or, what if they start to beat around the bush, or they say something that doesn't make sense to you, then I think that that's a very distinct red flag. I have the strong opinion that if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough. So don't let them speak over you. Don't let them try to use jargon and buzzwords and, heavy nomenclature to talk their way out of the problem. Make them explain it to you in a way that you understand. Hey, I noticed that you modified the bids on this specific key phrase. Why did you do that? What data led you to that decision? And the answer is, oh, you know what? I don't remember. It's too long ago. That's not a good answer. Choose something recent. You want to make sure that the decisions they're making on your behalf are data driven and that they're not outsourcing it to somebody, that they're not, using some automated bid scheduler mechanism. They need to be thinking about these things on your behalf. And I think that that's the best way to figure out who's really doing the job.
Why does it make sense to always start small regardless of a budget?
What's interesting about it is pay-per-click marketing is an organic ecosystem, and you're in the very beginning you're buying data. You're not really buying leads or traffic. You're buying information, and there's a significant amount of information that you can get with a small budget, and that information in many cases is available to you regardless of how big your budget gets. So you could spend $1 a day and see certain things, like impression share, for example. So you want to start with as small a budget as is possible, just to earn the initial data set that's required for you to see what's necessary on an ongoing basis. And so for everybody that's different. On a localized campaign, you could spend as little as a couple $100, depending on your industry. For a more competitive campaign or a national campaign, that could be $10,000 or $20,000 might be the minimum. But you want to start small, not start big. You don't want to go for saturation. You just want to go for data acquisition and then make strategic decisions when you move to amplify the size and reach of your campaigns.
Why should businesses
start with the SEO until they run the PPC? Explain that to us.
Sure. I don't think starting with SEO is ever the intelligent move. Search engine optimization can take, and not just can, but will take a significant amount of time to be successful. So if you're going to run SEO campaigns, you're looking at, the standard narrative is I think they're saying 60 days now. I think that's a lie. For highly competitive campaigns, you could spend 9, 12, and 18 months properly optimizing your site before you begin to rank on the top half of the first page. The issue with that is you have to make semantic decisions, specifically decisions as they relate to key phrase, value proposition, ad copy, that sort of thing. And those decisions you're not going to be able to properly vet until after you've reached critical mass. Well, you could make the wrong decision and not figure out that it's the wrong decision until well after you're optimized. So it could be 9 months before you really begin to test your assumptions, where if you start with PPC, you get to test your assumptions right away. So my recommendation to everyone always is start with paid advertising, validate your assumptions, and then use the validation to replicate the success from paid advertising over to organic optimization. I realize that SEO and PPC are not the same thing. And I realize that there's a different paradigm with paid ads than there is with organic placement, but they're close enough and they live inside the same ecosystem enough that you can really save yourself a lot of time, effort, energy, money, and heartache by running paid ads first and figuring out what performs.
What grounds you?
Gosh, so many things. My kids, for sure. I've got 2 little ones, Sammy and Ronan. They're 3 and 1, and they just bring me back to earth every single day. I spend the morning with them. We eat breakfast together. When the weather's nice, we go outside and hang out for a little bit, and then right after work, I head home and I try to spend at least an hour, hopefully more, with them, and then we'll eat dinner together. And it just reminds you how small we are, how short life is, how important they are, how little what I do matters, how much what I do matters. Yeah, it's my little guys.
What is the most valuable thing you have ever given
away?
Gosh, my time. I think that, the only thing that we all have that's equal is time, right? Everybody's born with a different, different citizenship, different financial backing, different opportunities, different parental breakdown. But we all have the exact same amount of time. And interestingly, time is kind of the only thing we actually have. You may think you own a car, but it's outside right now. It's not in your possession. You don't, it's not yours. It's not an integral part of you. Your time is your life force. And I think that when you give your time, you're giving a piece of your life to a person. And so it's important that we respect that and honor that.
Let's talk about your company, Self Solution 8. Tell us more about it.
We do targeted paid advertising. So people that want to run specifically on Google. Google's my favorite. I think Facebook is kind of a train wreck right now, to be honest with you. That congressional hearing they went through really threw them for a loop. They pulled the plug on a lot of their interest-based segmentation and the data they were purchasing. So I've seen Facebook take a pretty significant hit over the last year. But Google AdWords, and I mean they're calling it Google Ads now. Google Ads is where we live, We're a 7-figure agency. We do multi-million-dollar ad spend management. We work with small clients with spends as little as $2,000 a month, and we work with large clients with spends well into the 6 figures. So anybody out there looking for PPC management, I would love the opportunity to talk to you. We offer a free evaluation. We do everything by hand. There's no, automation or bots yet. Someday that will probably change, but right now I don't see a computer putting me out of business just yet.
Are you being biased because you're part of Google Ads or because of the Facebook? Because everyone is raving about Facebook, but now you come here and you say, nah, I think you should stay away from Facebook, should focus on Google. Are you being biased?
Oh, I'm definitely biased. There's no question. I will say though that Facebook and Google have two very different paradigms, and I can actually explain those to you on qualitative and quantitative basis. So, for example, we have a dedicated Facebook team because our agency does a large enough spend to justify that, and we have a dedicated Google team. When I talk to my dedicated Facebook team, their question is always, how do we get this client to spend more money? When I talk to my dedicated Google team, their question is how do we improve the performance of this campaign? So there's example number one. Example number two is I was speaking at State of Search in Dallas, and I ended up speaking alongside the Facebook partner manager, and not next to him. I mean, I went right after he did. When we met in the green room, I introduced myself and I explained to him that we had found that Facebook had been over-reporting data, grossly over-reporting conversion data by as much as 20 to 30%. And his response to me was, "Oh, I know." And then that was it. He walked away. Facebook has 28-day view-through attribution, so they'll take credit for a conversion that happens 28 days after somebody sees your ad. They don't even have to click on it. So if you're running multiple ad mechanisms and somebody happens to see your ad elsewhere, but they had an impression on Facebook, Facebook's going to tell you that conversion came from them. Facebook is notorious for stripping other people's conversion codes on their site, so you can't reconcile conversion data. Google allows you to reconcile conversion data, not just with Google AdWords and Google Analytics, but also other utilities like Wicked Reports, for instance. Google, in my experience, has done everything the right way. They're high integrity. They'll refund excess spend. They work to identify click fraud. Facebook, on the other hand, again, is notorious for bots. I've never seen them refund a red cent. So I'm biased, but there's a reason that I'm biased. I think that Google is a high integrity organization run by people that matter and care. And I think that Facebook is, it's run by a petulant child thief. I mean, the guy from the outset stole the idea. He lost the lawsuit. And then he tried to cut out all of his partners and steal their end too. So yeah, definitely biased, but for good reason.
Wow. So if someone is starting out, because some people they're like, well, I'm just starting out, I'm a small company, or I am just self-employed, I'm trying to push my product out there. Maybe Facebook, everyone is hanging on Facebook, but you are coming and saying, no, go to Google. So you would advise them they should start with Google Ads instead of Facebook.
Well, I won't tell you to ignore Google or ignore Facebook. That would be a mistake. So, I mean, Facebook, I don't know what it is. 50% of the U.S. adult population is still an active Facebook user, even though that's declining. Don't ignore Facebook. Just be cautious about vanity metrics. And here's a vanity metric, like agencies love to do this. They like to say, hey, we're running ads. Look at how many likes we got on your Facebook page. Look at how many people commented on your post. Look at how many people shared. Those are worthless if they're not resulting in money. So run Facebook ads. They're going to be cheaper because you get what you pay for. But realize that you want to, and going back to my original mention about people not tracking conversions, focus on what actually converts. How many leads are you getting and how many of those leads are buying from you? One really good example, I own an agency called Needle Marketing, and we focus specifically on Montessori schools. Well, the Facebook cost per acquisition on Facebook is half of what it is on Google. It costs us half the amount of money to drive somebody to a Montessori school to schedule a tour. It costs us half on Facebook what it does on Google. But Facebook also has a 50% show rate. So now, because half of the Facebook prospects are no-shows, the cost per acquisition is the same. But the Facebook people tend to be a lower quality. They're not mission appropriate, is what Montessori schools call it. So, there you go, Google winning that battle again. I'm not telling you to ignore Facebook, but don't be romantic about it. Don't let other people talk you into things. Anytime I hear anybody telling me how much money they're making on Facebook, I want to dig in right then and there. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. Good for you. Can you show me your ad campaign? And then instantly things start to dissipate. Well, we've gotten a lot of leads, or we have a really good list, or, it's really amplified a lot. We see a lot of, visibility, and people say, and then it becomes very anecdotal. But when you try to get people to connect it back to revenue, Google, in my experience, has been exponentially more powerful from inception. And Facebook versus Google head-to-head, there will never be a comparison. Now, if you have something that people aren't searching for, then Google's going to be worthless to you. And then you have to figure out a way to do outreach, and Facebook is a pretty good way to do outreach. But apples to apples, Google every single time, no matter what. Even though it's more expensive, it will actually cost you less in the long run, because more expensive is that's an improperly canvassed term. Is it more expensive if the lead is less but doesn't convert? So, yeah, I hope that answered the question. I don't mean to be overly combative. I'm just really passionate about this topic.
What is your clientele?
Sure. Well, I own multiple agencies. So Nido Marketing, I just mentioned, we focus on Montessori schools. I own an agency called GeoFlip alongside a partner that focuses on real estate investors. We just launched another brand, Digital Looms, that focuses on high-end stores. Solutions 8 is not niche specific. So we'll take anybody in any industry as long as we think we can be successful with you. And that's actually really important. Part of our Google ranking that I mentioned earlier is based off of our campaign performance. So if we take a campaign that performs poorly, it hurts my positioning with Google, which is important for you to know, because it means I'm not going to take you on as a client if I don't think there's a reasonable expectation for you to be successful. So we'll take anybody in any industry. You need to have reasonable expectations. That's number one. It's not a magic bullet. It's not guaranteed to work. And we tell that to you up front. You need to be willing to invest 90 days. That's an absolute must. It takes 90 days to make PPC work, and that's a fact. I've been doing this 12 years. I can tell you that's been a definitive truth from the very beginning. And for my agency, you need to be willing to spend at least $2,000 a month, and that's just an ad spend. That doesn't include my fee. So, with my fee, it's a $15,000 decision for those 90 days. Between my fee and the spend to Google, you need to be willing to gamble $15,000 to decide whether or not this is going to work with you. And what's really interesting about that is other agencies who tell you that they can take less money and it will take less time, they're just trying to sell you on something. If I could do it for less money, I would, because I want you as a client forever. If I could do it in less time, I would, because I want to qualify it sooner. But it takes 90 days and you have to spend $2,000. And again, I feel like anybody who tells you less on either of those two data points is probably just trying to sell you something.
Where can we find your product, and how can we connect with you?
Just Google Solutions 8. We're pretty well ranked. You can also go to sol8.com, sol8.com. If you want to connect with me directly, I also do private consulting. You can go to my website, which is kasimaslam.com, or you can just go to kasim.me, kasim.me, kasim.me.
Thank you. So, Clan, there will be more from Kasim in a moment. If you are listening on one of the many podcast platforms rather than my website, and you are encouraged by Kasim's journey, go to onlinesuccessjourney.com for a bonus portion of the interview. The Online Success Journey is a wonderful membership community built for people searching for the path to success. We are one big clan, and you can be part of this community for free. Once you have joined the clan, click on part 2 of Kasim's journey or over 100 other journeys that are available, and learn how you can find the right path for your own online success. That's a wrap, clan. Remember, success is a journey. Patience and Kasim.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to part 1 and want to be sure you know there is a second part to this and every journey podcast at onlinesuccessjourney.com, filled with even more success tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. There are dozens of episodes only available to the members of the Online Success Journey clan. Check out the website and click on Join the Clan for more information. Patience would like to thank you for listening to this podcast, and she has a free audio gift for you at her website. Go to onlinesuccessjourney.com for instant access to this gift. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps each of us chart our own path. So make sure you're subscribed to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the Online Success Journey and to listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review it at Stitcher and other sites by clicking the stars or completing the ratings form, by clicking thumbs up and leaving a comment on YouTube, or liking and sharing the podcast on social media. To review the podcast within iTunes, Simply open iTunes to the podcast, click on Ratings and Reviews, then write a review. On behalf of Patience, and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.